As of July 2020, I'm a new road bike rider thanks to the joys of 2020. It's been super fun to translate my long distance running fitness into cycling. And as a youngish petite woman, I just love that I am now easily passing tall male riders on the road. I have many questions and feel that we could do a full podcast together. So first of all, way to go, Holly. That's awesome. Just smashing egos left and right. That's cool. Then you say, however, to keep it functional, I downloaded TrainerRoad and have been doing RPE based workouts as I don't have a power meter or indoor trainer, which is actually something that we probably don't talk about enough. If you don't have an indoor trainer, indoor training isn't feasible. Like you're in an apartment and it would just be too loud, right? Or any number of different things, and you don't have a power meter, you can still follow your training plan with RPE based power targets. So you won't have, do X watts. Instead, it'll be do 7 out of 10 for this amount of time. You'll still get a quality training experience, right? Now, if you want to step it up even more, then you can get power measurement and everything else. But so kudos, Holly, on doing that. That's awesome. She says, I was just promoted into leadership of my company and suspect that my outdoor training will be compromised for a while. Congratulations. She says, so thinking of going in for an indoor trainer. So first, do you have any trainer gear recommendations and best practices I should be cognizant of? And then second question, I have been dying to ask, I have 2 large active dogs that I need to walk for at least 90 minutes every day, including rest days. This is part of my activity baseline for 5 years. However, I have heard you all talk about the need to really rest on rest days. So am I disrupting my recovery? Thanks so much for your podcast and product. It has really helped me jump into this sport, which I am absolutely loving. Cheers from Holly. So equipment levels first. We've talked about this plenty of times before, but virtual power, power meter, and smart trainer are usually kind of like the 3 tiers that you can kind of jump into getting started with training with power. Nate, can you describe what virtual power is for people?
Yeah. Virtual power. So back in the day, like 2010, when I started coding this, maybe launched in 2011, not everyone had power meters. And power meters were expensive back then. I don't know if you remember, like it was easy to have like a $2,000 power meter. And what we did is we took all the trainers that we could get our hands on in the market, and we put a power meter, and we had somebody ride at different wattages. And what that did is we could develop a power curve saying at this certain speed, this is the wattage that you would get out. And what happened is you develop this curve, but then the where that lands on the y-axis, kind of like the offset of the y-axis, would be different based on rolling resistance. But rolling resistance is pretty stable. So what this allowed us to do with virtual power is if you keep your tire pressure the same and the tension of the drum on the tire, we could develop this curve where you would get repeatable power numbers. But because we're not measuring the rolling resistance, and that can change a lot by how tight it is, it's not the same as a power meter where it would be accurate. But it could still be precise as every time you did it, it was the same. So let's say it would put Pete at maybe, let's say 250 watts instead of 350. But if Pete was always 250 and he went in and he could then progress, that would be great. It's just you can't compare it to other people, and you get a kind of an ego hit usually if you go from virtual power to a power meter or a boost. I've seen it both ways where you thought you were really strong and then you're like, oh shoot, I'm not strong. So that's virtual power. But it's cheap though. It's like you just get a speed sensor. So like a $20 speed sensor rather than a $2,500 power meter. Yep.
And then I'd say power meter is probably, if you had to pick power meter between smart trainer, I'd probably pick power meter. What say you, Ivy, on that one?
I think that Holly just doesn't want to get in a situation where, it sounds like with their promotion, they're still going to want to ride outside, but maybe just less. But you just don't want to get in a situation where like you have 2 sets of workouts and like one of them is missing the data that you wish you had. And that can really, I know for me, that has impeded workouts at times when like in one setup, I have data and have information to go off of, and the other I'm writing RPE. It's hard to like hit the same marks and be motivated. So I would recommend for a power meter, getting something that would give you like the most bang for your buck that you can have both indoors and outdoors. So it might not be a smart trainer. It may be, and Holly may have 2 bikes, like 2 setups, like something that stays on the trainer and like stays inside and something else that's outside. So having something that maybe can be used in both scenarios would be most effective for training and for peace of mind. And yeah.
So I really like those new Garmin pedals because like you said, the versatility, I know like Favero Asiomas exist and that sort of thing, but being able to swap effectively, you could swap those pedals from road even over to mountain bike or a cross bike or a gravel bike or anything like that. versatility really does matter, because once you have power once, like you don't want to ride without it. Like I have power on my enduro bike, and honestly, I'm never going out and doing structured workouts on my enduro bike. But I feel like I do want to know the impact of that ride after I've done it, right? On like what's the impact on my training. And without power, I can guess and I can probably get close, but it's just nice peace of mind to have.
Yeah. So for Holly, for adaptive training, having the power meter on both will be better, but it really depends. So if you're like a 2 workout a week on the weekdays, and then I'm just going to ride for fun with my friends, you don't really need a power meter in this situation. But if you're saying I'm going to mix my workouts, some indoor, some outdoor, then I would go for the power meter. But if it's just casual outside and there's no, you want to be the
Sounds
person
like Holly likes
I got an
to
interval.
roll coal when she goes outside. Man.
I know, right? She's taking names.
I think Holly needs power meter.
For sure. And then if you go smart trainer, the other option there, once again, you'll only have power inside. And this is something that we've said plenty of times. And I feel like it's good to explain it though. If you're going to go smart trainer, I feel like if you're going to spend that money, in other words, I feel like it's best to get one of the top tier trainers, because so there's 2 things with the trainer. There's that how the trainer actually works. In other words, how it feels when you're pedaling. Like, is the resistance, does it feel smooth, or does it feel like you're pedaling through chunky peanut butter all the time? Does it ramp up in a really strange way that just feels completely unrealistic and foreign? So then when you get out on the road, it feels strange, or does it represent what you feel when you're on the road? And this is a good example. If people are cost constrained and looking for an indoor trainer, I usually push them toward the CYCLIST machine, because it just feels so good. In that regard, it's like one of the best trainers, right? It doesn't have resistance control, but you as a rider have built-in resistance control as well. It's just you adjust your cadence and shift gears, right? And you can hit your targets. So a lot of the time, a lower end smart trainer, you have resistance control, but it's paired to a trainer that doesn't perform as well in terms of how it feels. So then you'll have smart control, but it's always on kind of like a marginalized experience. So that's why we usually recommend, if you're going to get a smart trainer, you go for that top tier. So we're talking like, the top one from Tacx, like the Tacx Neo, top one from Saris, the H3, that sort of a thing. Like that level is what you want to be looking at with those. Pete, what say you on that? You deal with a lot of devices in particular with mobile apps.
I would say one of the interesting things about trainers is that they always make sacrifices to make them cost less. I mean, just from a basic business standpoint. So you have to remember that they're making some sort of sacrifice to make it at a lower price point. And generally speaking, everything feels better at the top end, which is a lot. But one of the final things that is really important to do is there's a lot of kind of trainer specific information that you should do to optimize your experience. So just putting your bike on and clicking through the gears and going works. But if you kind of optimize your setup, and if you go to the help center on TrainerRoad and look up your trainer, there's a huge article on all the best practices you should do, which gear you should be in, how to set everything up when the calibration, everything that you need to know to make your experience much better. So no matter what trainer you're on, definitely do that, and you'll be surprised at how it can change your experience.
Mm-hmm. So I was just at IKEA and I bought some stuff. Then it broke like 2 days later, but it just feels good. You love it.
Did you get meatballs?
No. My dad's actually like Swedish, and we get real Swedish meatballs. This is it's like Taco Bell, right? Of Swedish food.
Hey, there's a place for Taco Bell.
There's totally a place, but it's just not the same. It's like I don't go there just for that. But it's so the IKEA stuff's nice, but after a while you're like, I wish I have to buy it again, right? And if you are the type of person who you're like, I'm going to be on this trainer every day, right? For an hour or 2 hours or multiple times a week. This is a huge part of my life, and I really want to do this and have a good experience. I would save up the extra $200 or $300 to get that extra level. Another tip I love, unless it's the road machine is really good, but if you're going to get a smart trainer, the wheel off, where you get to put the chain on it, you will save a tire. Like, you got to think about that. The tire that gets worn down on on one that's not that is a cost for sure. And that will then, after you use it for a couple of years, that's a good $200 of tires that you could eat through easy, or more. And then, or you could get like a special wheel with one of the orange, the trainer tires. But then that's also more money and more setup, and you have to change it all the time. That's what I think. And I'm not saying all the other trainers are going to break or something, but there is a difference, as Pete said. It's probably the trainer companies love us saying this too, because there's probably more margin on the higher trainers. Yes, buy our most expensive thing.
Yeah,
But
sure.
It's great.
Yeah, and the other benefit that you get with the wheel off ones and the higher end models in particular is you get more flexibility with like through axles or with normal road axles if you have an older bike that you want to put on there, and even like drivetrain stuff. Whereas you could maybe swap the free hub, so you could run like a SRAM XD driver, maybe the new Shimano microspline driver, something like that, might not be accessible on a lower end smart trainer as well. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind.
I have to say this too, because Ivy's going to get this question a ton, because everyone will want to read, is just keep your chain line straight. I like to be in a big gear on the trainer. If you're in a small gear and you have lower speed, the trainer will actually have an easier time of like adjusting the power very, very quickly. I find with the new power match, that's not even an issue. I'm in like a big 53, 11 or 12. I like the high inertia feel. And then if you do not have a power meter, after the warm up, then do your spin down, because you want your trainer to warm up. If you do have a power meter, you do not need to do a spin down of your trainer if you're using Power Match, which is on by default, because that's because your power meter drives it. And then for your power meter, you can zero that before you get on, and that's enough for the whole ride. You don't have to worry about anything else. Boom, no notes needed, Pete. Boom.
That's amazing. I'm very proud.
You would have had so many questions, Ivy. You know it.
I know.
For
Thank
sure.
you.
You're welcome.
Let's get into our question about recovery. Pete, you have Nova, your pup, and you're always taking her out for walks and everything else, or dog, I should say. She's not a pup anymore. How do you manage that? Because you take her out regularly for walks, but then training, work, busy life.
Yeah, I think it's enjoyable in the sense that it is not training or work or regular life things. So there's something to be said for a recovery walk that is more for you or the dog or whoever. So that shouldn't be discounted. But I think for most people, unless you're really at the high end of your total stress that you can handle as a person, I would say a dog walk isn't going to diminish your ability to train or tackle new things. So think about how you feel on a daily basis. If you're barely struggling through your workouts and every time you get up, you feel lethargic, and then you have to do a 90-minute dog walk, I would say the dog walk may actually be impacting you. But if you feel pretty good most of the time and you're getting enjoyment and the dogs are getting enjoyment, I would say it's totally valid and works really well. Walking is a lot less stress on your body than you would think, especially if you're used to doing it all the time.
Ivy, you mentioned that you knew of like pro riders that intentionally took walks. So, sans dog, they just took walks as like part of their program, right?
Yeah, a couple world tour guys that I know, like even during stage races and like grand tours, like every night take like a 30-minute walk, because it's good to like get away from your team setting and like do something different other than riding. And there are a lot of like good cognitive benefits to just like walking for a few minutes alone. But yeah, so it doesn't have to be taxing all the time. But on the other side of this, it can be. One of my like weird odd jobs during pro road racing was being a dog walker, which was some days it was really like too much, like too hard to do a 90-minute walk, like not a chance, no way after a hard workout. And so one of my hacks was Holly, you should get a hucket, one of those like catapult stick on
ball tosser.
So you just lean against a fence and just, wear your dog out. Take zero effort. It's great. Or if your dog is super well socialized, like I would take the dogs I walk to a dog park and just like sit down and eat a sandwich and recover and let the dogs get tired. Like
Ivy brings out the Normatec boots to the dog park and just like
snaps out a chair, legs up.
I was hoping for the treadmill. We just put them on the treadmill and have them run.
Oh yeah.
Not the same experience for a dog, sadly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've found that my dogs admittedly get much longer walks and much more frequent walks if it's during recovery weeks and off season. Like if I was doing mid volume, I could manage more. But as I'm doing high volume, that's taking up a whole lot more of my available stress space, so to speak. As a result, that extra time on my legs and everything else, I do feel it. I don't want to feel it. I want to just be able to spend all that time walking the dogs, do all that stuff, but I do feel it. So, but the thing is, there's two sides of this. Number one, if you're not used to walking your dogs for 90 minutes and suddenly you start walking your dogs daily for 90 minutes, that will feel like an increase in stress. Now, you mentioned, Holly, that this is like your baseline. You've done this for years, so you're probably used to that. So the other end is then what Pete's talking about is how full is the glass? Or is it already almost to the very brim so that it's almost overflowing? A 90-minute walk is going to have an impact. But if you have some room before you fill up that glass of stress, so to speak, then you're probably okay. Nate, I'm sorry, I cut you off. You were going to say something.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
I mean, if that's the measurement, then everyone cuts me off all the time because I always want to say something, but I'm trying to work on not saying things as quickly. Holly, absolutely walk your dogs. 5 years, 90 minutes for 5 years. Think of this as a cortisol lowering event. Like in the evening or in the morning, what it is, you walk, you relax. Cortisol, like the stress in your body, that's a huge toll on people as for recovery. And you get in that parasympathetic state of like, you can think about your intention for the next day. You could write things down as you walk, as things come into your brain. Because there's not like stimulus coming in, right? You're with your dogs, you come back, then you're really ready to relax. And I don't think if you're adapted to it, 90 minutes for every day for 5 years, it's no issue. That's like me saying, should I really walk from my car to my office? Like, I'm upping my stuff. Like, I've been doing it for my lifetime, but it might be too much. I think you're going to be fine, Holly. And I think you would be worse not doing it actually, because then you would probably stress about your dogs. You wouldn't have that like decompression time, and you'd be too focused, which we see all the time, right? With people, you get too tied up in the details. Like, oh, that's 5 more grams of fat than I wanted in this meal. Oh my goodness, my whole thing's gone. And the stress of that and worrying is the thing that makes you slower, which is crazy. Not the action you're doing or not doing. It's the stress that does it. So don't worry, Holly, you are good. If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.
If you think I have better hair than Jonathan, give it a thumbs up. If not, leave a comment.
My hair is better than his.